Hello everyone, Tmmgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my football talk videos. Now today's video is going to be focusing on the fantastic Super Sunday action that we've had today. Today is the 16th of March, if you haven't been able to read the title of the video, just to let you know. And obviously today was a day of huge derbies in the Premier League. Manchester United, Liverpool and Spurs, Arsenal, two of the biggest rivalries in the league, and two games which had huge significance at the top end of the table for the title race and for European qualification. Let's start off with the early game of the day, Manchester United, Liverpool. Now, it was a 3-0 victory for Liverpool. Nemanja Vidic got sent off for 2 bookable offences, and I have to say, Liverpool look really good for a very good go at the title. And at the start of the season, that is something I could never imagined me saying. Liverpool had a great start to the season, had a great Christmas period, and I always was saying, Liverpool are playing really well, but they're just going to be top 4, surely they can't keep winning games, and surely they just cannot keep playing such incredible attacking football. But every single week that goes by, they continue to do it, and again, Brendan Rodgers had a fantastic tactical stroke today, playing that sort of diamond midfield with Gerrard holding, Allen and Henderson slightly advanced, and then Sterling in behind the front two of Sturridge and Suarez. Because Liverpool tore Manchester United apart today. 3-0 did not flatter Liverpool at all. It really could and should have been more. Obviously, Gerrard missed a penalty, scored 2, but who missed another penalty. Arguably should have been another penalty on Daniel Sturridge as well. With 4 penalties awarded against Manchester United in a game at Old Trafford. I think that is actually one of the harbingers of the apocalypse, so he was quite lucky that perhaps that didn't get awarded there. But Liverpool was completely dominated, and Manchester United had 1 shot on target. 1 shot on target in a home game for Manchester United is just awful. And United look like a team who have no idea. And, like I mentioned, that midfield diamond employed by Brendan Rodgers completely dominated possession for Liverpool. Whenever they got the ball, they looked dangerous, and United just completely looked void of ideas. And this was a really big problem, because the way Manchester United set up, they had Fellaini and Carrick in the centre of the park, and then they had Mata and Januzaj as the wingers. And this was mentioned in commentary a little bit by Gary Neville, but it's definitely a point worth expanding upon. Neither of those two players are defensively minded whatsoever, and for me, Juan Mata's best position by miles is in the centre of the park behind central striker or 2 central strikers. Having him wide, he's just so much less effective. He really is so much less effective. And I cannot understand why David Moyes signed Juan Mata to play in that position. Because if you're going to spend over £40 million on a player, surely you're going to try and base the team around him, and he isn't doing it. He's trying to shoehorn him in a position he's not comfortable with, and Mata hasn't really set the world alight, and there's no denying he's a fantastic player, but he hasn't benefited Manchester United enough to warrant the money spent on him. And today's performance was awful from Manchester United, it really was. And you saw Sir Alex Ferguson in the stands again with a face like thunder, and you completely can understand why. It's just one of those seasons for Manchester United, isn't it? They lost horrendously away at Olympiacos, but I have to say, I thought today's performance was even worse, because 3-0 did not flatter Liverpool. It could have quite conceivably been 6. It really could have. If Gerrard had scored his 3rd penalty, if that other Sturridge penalty had gone in, there was a couple of chances for Suarez that he butchered, a couple of times where the final ball wasn't quite there for Liverpool. It was one of those moments where it could have been awful. It could have been that Manchester City result all over again, when I think it was an 8-1 off the top of my head. Unbelievably bad day, and it really could have been one of those. But it just shows for me how far Manchester United have to go to actually become a title challenging force again. Because Arsenal have moved on, Manchester City have moved on, we saw today Liverpool moved on, and United have regressed. They really have regressed 2 or 3 years, and they are 5 or 6 players away, 5 or 6 top players away from being able to compete, in my opinion. They're so far behind the top 4 now. Champions League is gone. There's no hope for United getting Champions League anymore. They're going to do well to get Europa League, because it's quite conceivable seeing Everton finish above them. Spurs could quite conceivably finish above them. it's a real surprise to see Manchester United continually play this badly, but I think it just shows that David Moyes doesn't really have a grasp on this football club yet. I mean, today, his tactical ability was just non-existent. I mean, like I mentioned, Brendan Rodgers employed that diamond midfield against him, and Liverpool dominated, and Moyes just didn't change anything. And Gary Neville was sitting on commentary saying, he needs to bring Welbeck on, he needs to change, Liverpool are dominating. He just sits there, he's so passive. He didn't make any changes until it was far too late and Manchester United were out of the game, and you could clearly see that he needed to change it at half-time, and he just didn't. I mean, the only thing he did was about 30 minutes into the game, he switched Mata and Januzaj, and what difference did that make? Absolutely none whatsoever. It was an incredibly disappointing performance from Manchester United. They got torn apart by, it has to be said, a better team. A team like Liverpool, who have a great shot at winning the title, a real great shot. And they've got some big title-challenging rivals coming to Anfield. And if they win those games, they can very conceivably win the league, which is a huge thing for Liverpool to be in a realistic chance of winning the league. It's a very, very big thing. Something that hasn't really happened for a while. And I'm actually quite pleased to see it. It's definitely something that's going to be a little bit interesting. The run-in, seeing Liverpool up there actually competing for the first time in a while. And it's just setting up for an absolutely fantastic title race. And, leading nicely on, carrying in the topic about the title race, was Arsenal Spurs. Obviously played at White Hart Lane, massive North London derby, huge game, always very, very fiery games. And again, this was a result which was surprising in its own way, because Arsenal took the lead 72 seconds in with an absolutely barnstorming goal from Thomas Rosicky. Unbelievable strike, great technical ability, got a bit of luck with the bobble off Oxlade-Chamberlain, but what a great strike that is with the outside of the foot. I always think those goals look phenomenal. One of the best goal types you can see when they just stroke the ball with the outside of the foot and it just flies into the top corner. I remember a goal that Michael Essien scored for Chelsea, very, very similar to that style, when he just hit it with the outside of his foot and it swerved in. They always look incredible, and it was a great finish. But you have to say, from that point onwards, Tottenham dominated the play. I mean, Arsenal, I think, had 41% possession, which is just awful. It's the lowest I think they've had in the Premier League this season, and it was just completely against the character you expect Arsenal to play. Because the first thing you think of when you say Arsenal Football Club is good, short passing, very attractive football, knocking the ball around and actually trying to control the game. And that was not in evidence today. It really was a very, very sluggish attacking performance from Arsenal. But the thing that really impressed me about them today is, for the first time in a long, long time, they actually stuck in there and ground a result out. This is one of the major criticisms Arsenal have had for quite a long time now, 3, 4, 5 years, that they're very, very good when they're playing well, but when they can't string together their gorgeous attacking play, they just implode and fall apart. And the great thing from an Arsenal point of view today was, they didn't really create too much the entire game. Even the goal they scored, it wasn't a clear-cut chance at all. It wasn't, a fantastic move. It was just a good counter-attacking play. Got a bit of luck and he spanked it in. Great goal. Didn't really create too much, but they stuck in there. They were very, very solid defensively. Koscielny and Mertesacker are turning into one of the best centre-back pairings in the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. Really, really come on. I mean, I can remember when Per Mertesacker and Koscielny first came to Arsenal. They got a lot of criticism, but I think they've found their feet now. They've found their partnership. They are obviously very, very happy playing with each other, which is a good thing. And they're keeping Thomas Vermaelen out the side. Thomas Vermaelen, Arsenal captain, very, very good player. Everyone was saying, Arsenal need to sign a centre-back to play alongside him and get rid of the Squillaches and the Koscielnys and the Mertesackers and the Giroux. But these two guys have stepped up, and fair play to them. They've really, really become a very, very good partnership indeed. And this is something that Arsenal desperately need, because to win a title, I know it's like a tired old cliche, but you can't play well every game. It's something which is an impossibility. You cannot expect to step onto a football pitch and blast teams away 5-0 every week and storm your way to victory. You can't do that. I mean, one of the things that made Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United so special was because they could go onto a pitch and play absolutely dog-eared and grind out an ugly 1-0 win. And then when they did play well, they'd absolutely tear you to smithereens. And this is what Arsenal did today. They were ugly. They created nothing. They didn't look like they'd strung 5 passes together. They didn't look like they've even played a match together. There was plenty of long ball hoofed clearances, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is they won. They won 1-0, and that's 3 points. And obviously, because Chelsea lost yesterday, and as an Aston Villa fan who went to the game, I have to say there was absolutely incredible performance from Villa trying to shoehorn that in somewhere. I'm really, really pleased with that result. But that puts them right into the title race again. It really does. And, Chelsea, they do have a relatively easy run in comparison to some of their other rivals, but that's a big defeat, and Arsenal being able to grind out a result like that, playing Chelsea next week, if they win that game, all of a sudden they are banging the title race as potential favourites. This is the sort of result that Arsenal definitely need, because when they do play well, like I mentioned, they shred teams. But if they can start picking up wins when they play badly, that's an ominous sign, because no one's ever doubted Arsenal's quality. Arsenal's quality has never ever been questioned. It's their battling qualities that has been questioned, and they showed them in abundance today. Great performance from Koscielny and Mertesacker again. Don't want to understate just how fantastic those two have been this season, and they're playing a key part in Arsenal's title race, no doubt about that. But moving on to a little bit about Spurs now. Spurs are an incredibly frustrating team. They really are. Because if you look at the talent that Tottenham side has, they should be playing better. I mean, Spurs today were completely toothless. They played against an Arsenal team who really didn't create much. They weren't particularly threatening, yet they really couldn't break them down. The only meaningful chance they had was right at the start of the second half, when Nacer Chadli rounded the keeper, and he should have scored. But again, Koscielny and Mertesacker on the line combined to block enough of the goal to get the blocking. Great defending on their part, but that should have been a goal. But apart from that, they didn't really create much. Adebayor worked hard up front. He was hustling him round. He's always a presence, a bit of a target man. Held the ball up quite well. They had a couple of half chances, but they don't have that killer pass or that great incisive counter attack. They're one of these teams that is incredibly frustrating to watch, and I have to say Tim Sherwood has not really improved the situation from Andre Villas-Boas. And again, I did a Football Talk video saying that I didn't think Spurs made the right call in sacking Villas-Boas, and Tim Sherwood again hasn't really improved things at Tottenham for me. He's brought in players like Bentaleb from the youth team, players he's obviously impressed with, but it hasn't made that much of an impact. I'm really confused about Spurs, because last season they were one of those teams who would always look dangerous. And I know they had Gareth Bale, and I know Gareth Bale was a big loss for them, but all of the players they've signed just haven't done anything. I mean, Christian Eriksen's probably been the only one, but he was injured when Villas-Boas was at the club, which is a real shame. I mean, Soldado has completely flopped in his first season after being devastating in La Liga. He hasn't found the service, and he's a luxury player. He's sort of like an improved Darren Bent. Darren Bent is never in a million years going to harry backlines or hustle or be a very good target man who links the play. But if you give him enough chances, he'll score goals. And this is the thing with Spurs. Spurs don't do that. There's a lot of slow passing. It's all in front of the team. And a player like Soldado certainly doesn't benefit from that. So he was a big disappointment. Chadli disappointing. Paulinho not been particularly effective. Eric Lamela, what has happened to him? Spent all of that money on a player and he doesn't play. How many games has he played this season? You can probably count them on one hand. He's been incredibly disappointing just through the fact he hasn't been there at all. So that's a massive deal. It's just so many players have been signed at that club, and it just seems to be a club which is treading water. Spurs every single year, they have a decent run. They're never in any danger of not finishing in the top half. They always have a relatively strong season, but they never seem to make any progress. They always seem to bob between 5th and 8th, and that's all they do. And I don't see what they can do to really improve that, because I think this was the summer where they thought they could make the transition. You know, they thought they could actually step forward and become a regular top 4 team, and then once they've got into the Champions League 2, 3, 4 seasons in a row, possibly go out and try and win a league championship. But it just hasn't happened that way, and this must be incredibly disappointing today if you're Tim Sherwood, because Graham Souness made the point that he'd be relatively happy because at least the players kept battling on, and that's true. Spurs definitely didn't give up. It could have been very, very easy for them after the week they'd had. As soon as they went down very, very early, in 72 seconds in, they could have just let their heads drop. They could have started moping, feeling sorry for themselves, and that could have been that. So at least that is one thing you could say about them, that they did stick in with the battle, they fought hard, and they didn't give up. But at the end of the day, these are players who, in the course of 90 minutes, having so much of the ball at home against a team that struggled to string 3 passes together today, created nothing. And they created virtually nothing. The only chances they created were when Szczesny flapped at the ball at the start of the second half, and a couple of half chances here and there from shots from the edge of the area. And that is it. And it's just not good enough. Spurs, you just cannot play like this and expect to get Champions League football all the time. You just can't do it. And it's really disappointing for them. Their season is definitely stuttered. And again, I've made this point before and I'll make it again now. Sacking managers is never just an automatic ticket to improved results. We've seen it with Cardiff, we've seen it with Fulham, we've seen it with a host of other teams. West Brom, I know West Brom picked up a big win yesterday, but that's the first win Pepe Mel's had as manager. Just because you fire your manager does not mean you're going to suddenly leap up the table, and it would be really, really nice for once to see teams actually give managers time, because who knows, if AVB had stayed there and tried to implement his philosophy, and the Tottenham players actually liked Andrew Villas-Boas. This wasn't at Chelsea where the senior players revolted against him. The Tottenham players were still behind him. It would have been nice for Daniel Levy to give him another season, give him next season, and see what happens then. And then if it hasn't gone right, yeah, that's fine. Sack him at the end of the season so the new guy gets an entire pre-season to actually sit there, think of the players he wants to get rid of and think of the players he wants to get in, and actually try and build the club. But that's just, there's so much parochialism and so much short-termism in football, and it's to the detriment of football clubs. It really, really is. But guys, once again, thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Be definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say about today's games too. Really, really interesting games for a variety of different reasons like I've discussed, and I'd be definitely interested to discuss that with you. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.